Now this headline from the Mail Online reads, "New edition of Hitler's Mein Kampf goes on sale in German bookshops and sells out instantly." Adolf Hitler's autobiography Mein Kampf was an instant sellout when it hit bookstores in Germany for the first time since World War II. Now, Mein Kampf means my struggle, and it's an autobiography by Adolf Hitler, and in it he outlines his political views and Germany's proposed future, and it was published in 1925 and 1926 in 2 parts. Now, some organisations are of course worried that the high volume of sales is because there is a rise of anti-Semitism across Europe, and the president of the World Jewish Congress said it's absurd to re-release Mein Kampf as scholarship. It's a hateful, racist, anti-Semitic book, and why they would allow it to be republished is beyond me, he says. With a spike in anti-Semitic incidents across Europe, he adds, republishing the manifesto is like taking a fire and throwing oil on it. And friends, it does fascinate me too that at a time when the Bible is being removed from society and Christians are being labelled haters for sticking to their biblically held beliefs, a book such as Hitler's Mein Kampf is given the go-ahead for publication. Why isn't that hate speech too? Now friends, that's proof alone right there that there is a strategy of darkness at work to aid the rise of the Antichrist in this hour. Now friends, I firmly believe that in this hour there is a spirit rising in Europe akin to the spirit that resided in Adolf Hitler, and this release of Hitler's writings at this time should serve as evidence of this. Hitler's words are now ringing out once again across Germany, and it was Hitler who chillingly declared this: "At the time of supreme peril, I must die a martyr's death for the people. But after my death will come something really great, an overwhelming revelation to the world of my mission. My spirit will rise from the grave, and the world will see I was right." And in some respect, friends, Hitler's spirit has risen from the grave at this time in the release of this previously banned publication. Now, I write about the spirit that embodied Hitler in my book, Trumpet Blast Warning. It's part of what the Holy Spirit revealed to me as I was writing the book and after I received the dream vision in which the Lord warned me about the dangers of the European Union, which, by the way, friends, is a direct fulfillment of Hitler's dream to see a united Europe and a single currency. It even had the name originally planned while under Nazi Germany, the European Economic Community, before it was changed to the European Union, and prominent Nazi officials were also involved in the formation of what is now the EU. And of course the UN too, and we also know that many Nazis were taken from Germany to the US after World War II to continue their work in various high-profile organisations. Now friends, can you see that what Hitler set out to achieve was achieved through the formation of the EU? Europe was actually conquered, and now 28 nations are subject to the tyranny of Brussels, and it's only set to get worse. And I know they're talking about the possibility of the EU breaking up, but friends, as history shows, new and more powerful institutions always replace those that apparently fail. So if it fails, it will be an orchestrated fail, and something more tyrannical will rise in its place. Now friends, we need to remember the significance of Germany because geographically it is in the heart of the Holy Roman Empire. And of course the Bible declares that a revived Roman Empire would appear on the world stage near the closing stages of history. And we can see that historically this Roman Empire has been rising. Now we haven't got time to cover this in length today, but I'll do a feature on this in another broadcast. But just to say, so much activity is centred around the country of Germany. For example, in the heart of Berlin is the Pergamon Museum, in which resides the seat of Satan and the gates of hell. Yes, friends, you didn't hear that wrong. The seat of Satan and the gates of hell reside within the city of Berlin. And I know, friends, this sounds like something out of a Hollywood movie, but sadly there's not a green screen or special effect in sight. It's all real, and I've been there myself and I've seen them, and they are both massive structures. Now, the seat of Satan, otherwise known as the Pergamum altar, is referenced in the Bible. Yes, friends, once again, the Bible is reading like a publication hot off the press. Now, in the book of Revelation, we read the following: "And to the angel of the church in Pergamos write, I know your works and where you dwell, where Satan's throne is, and you hold fast to my name and did not deny my faith, even in the days which Antipas was my faithful martyr, who was killed among you, where Satan dwells." Revelation 2:12-13. Now, John did not write figuratively here, but he wrote literally. Pergamon was the centre of emperor worship. In fact, it boasted 3 temples dedicated to the worship of the Roman emperor, one of which was called the Temple of Pergamon, with an altar dedicated to emperor worship. Refusal to acknowledge the divinity of the emperor resulted in ritual murder upon the altar. And from 1878 to 1886, a German engineer called Karl Humann excavated Satan's throne, known as the Pergamon altar. With the agreement of the Turkish government, all the fragments were painstakingly transported stone by stone to Germany and became the property of the Berlin Museum, and it was eventually showcased in Berlin's Pergamon Museum in 1930 alongside the Ishtar Gate. Now, 3 years later, Hitler came to power. As if lured by the satanic influence that it embodied, a grand reproduction was commissioned for his Nazi rallies in Nuremberg, and it was from the place of Satan's throne that Hitler delivered the final solution, what we now know to be the systematic extermination of the Jews in the Holocaust. Now, we'll talk about the gates of hell another time, but friends, these archaeological sites now residing in Germany seem to be a magnet for spiritual works of darkness. Now, when I was in Germany a few years ago, I quite by chance met a pastor who told me a story that I need to keep confidential and can't share on this radio show, but the end result of that story was that the Chancellor of Germany curiously moved residents to live directly opposite the museum that houses the seat of Satan after she came to power in 2005. Then later, in 2010, then President of the European Council, Herman Van Rompuy, made the first ever State of Europe speech. And from where did he do that, you might ask? Well, believe it or not, friends, he did it from the seat of Satan. Yes, Rompuy was introduced by Angela Merkel, and here's some of the words he spoke in that address. Ladies and gentlemen, it is an honour to be addressing you at this place and time, and above all because I'm the first politician you have invited to give the annual Europe address, and then because it is my privilege to do so in the Pergamon Museum. There is a sense of powerful and ancient forces driving us in 2 directions. Friends, what exactly did Rompuy mean by that statement? Now, Germany is central, friends, and that is why it is also Germany who is receiving an open number of migrants, 1.1 million just last year alone, mostly men, and it was Merkel who last year called again for an EU army, and prominent German think tanks and politicians are also calling for the establishment of an EU army too. Not to mention, of course, just a few days ago, Tony Blair once again called for an EU army. An EU army then seems inevitable. Now, of course, Germany's population is rising due to their migrant policy, and these people are going to need work, aren't they? And doubtless many of them will sign up to this future EU army. Friends, let's keep our eyes on Europe.